Hello, this is Darrell Castle with today's Castle Report. This is Friday, the 19th day of August, in the year of our Lord 2022. I will be talking about the recent raid on former President Donald Trump's home in Mar-a-Lago in Florida. The raid was unprecedented in American history. The raid was conducted against arguably the regime's chief critic and political opponent. The raid was 3 months before a critical midterm election that is predicted to be a rebuke of the regime's policies. The raid was conducted by the regime's Department of Justice and the FBI, proven to be very corrupt organizations. What should we make of all this? The first thing the raid tells us is that the FBI, the DOJ, and the Biden administration in general are liars who can't even keep their lies straight between them. They will only admit the truth under extreme duress, and when all the lies have been exposed to the whole world, beset by contradictions, obvious lies, just plain incompetence, the many explanations offered by the FBI come apart under examination. The lies make the real reason for the raid more obvious, and that is that it was a political hit job on a former president to find something, anything, to keep him from running and for perhaps winning the presidency again. The president didn't know about the raid. He had nothing to do with it. The old, he didn't know until he heard it on the news story again. The administration set out to distance the president from the raid, I would suppose in a vain attempt to make it appear that he was not trying to persecute a political opponent. Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre told us no one at the White House was given a heads up on the raid. No, that did not happen. He learned about it through the media. So we are expected to believe that the Department of Justice, with the Attorney General appointed by the President, did not even brief the President on a planned FBI raid of a former President's home, even though the raid was something that had never happened before in American history. It was something that could perhaps change the perception of the American people toward their government forever. The President knew nothing about it. With any president other than Joe Biden, that assumption would be total fantasy. But with Biden, I suppose he could have been having another light-intensity day. During the briefing, for days after the raid, Newsweek reported that the Attorney General Merrick Garland was regularly briefed on the Records Act investigation, but he insisted he had no prior knowledge of the date and time of the raid, nor was he asked to approve it. So again, officials of the administration raided the home of a former president. Neither the Attorney General nor the President of the United States knew anything about it. The Justice Department appeared to be trying to throw the FBI under the bus, but the FBI decided not to fall on its sword and started to fight back. Finally, Merrick Garland, the Attorney General, admitted he had approved the search warrant. Quote, "I personally approved the decision to seek a warrant in this matter," end quote. Why would his staff and the administration try to shield him from that by lying about it? Why do they act guilty, like someone caught in the act of a sloppy burglary like Watergate? Pretending that Merrick Garland was not aware was just a bit too unbelievable, and the story started to unravel. Later, the Attorney General of the United States, the head of the Department of Justice, Merrick Garland, admitted that he had pondered over the decision of the raid for weeks before giving his approval. The decision was the subject of weeks of meetings between senior Justice Department people and the FBI in order to request a warrant. From their hand-picked judge, an affidavit had to be prepared listing what was alleged to be probable cause for the search and probable cause that a crime had been committed. What did the affidavit allege? What was the probable cause for the search? What evidence did the Department of Justice have? The answer: you can't be allowed to know that because it would impede our investigation. A quote from DOJ lawyers, quote, "There remain compelling reasons, including to protect the integrity of an ongoing law enforcement investigation that implicates national security, that support keeping the affidavit sealed." Maybe a redacted version is possible then. No, not so, folks. Quote, "The government has carefully considered whether the affidavit can be released subject to redactions. The redactions necessary to mitigate harms to the integrity of the investigation would be so extensive as to render the remaining unsealed text devoid of use," end quote. Since the affidavit remains sealed, the media is free to report any FBI claim about what Trump was suspected of having in his possession. They clearly don't want to release any information that would reveal their lies and cover-up. However, we learn late yesterday that the judge who issued the affidavit has said now that some of the information could be released. Some, he doesn't say what yet, but some. Why would the 30 or more FBI agents plundering through Trump's private office in his wife's closet and her lingerie take passports? Why would they take the president's passports? Trump accused the FBI of taking 3 passports, one of which was expired, one of which was diplomatic. The passports obviously had nothing to do with national security or classified documents. Quickly, the press jumped in to call him a liar. CBS News claimed that, quote, the FBI was not in possession of former President Trump's passports, end quote. That phrase, not in possession, obviously means nothing. Why not just say we didn't take them? Well, it turns out they did take them. They did take the passports, but as in virtually every instance, their first impression when confronted with the question was to lie about it. Eventually, the FBI said, yes, we did recover 3 passports, which were recovered by a filter team, which weeds out privileged information. So they did take his passports, which more than likely exceeded their authority. Passports are not something you just scrape into a box, probably. They were in his private safe, which was force opened. The FBI now says the passports will be returned in about 2 weeks. This organization, the FBI, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, looks more and more corrupt, more and more overbearing. We are not only above the law, we are the law. Every minute of every day, we have a regime from the White House on down through the Department of Justice and the FBI that seems to take pride in conducting the affairs of government like a third world junta. Their lying dishonesty knows no bounds except when it takes to get Trump out of office. That is how our democracy, as the Democrats like to call it, our democracy, works. Now let's consider this, the need for the warrant and the raid. The seizure of personal items and boxes of documents was a pressing and emergency need to protect national security. Can that be believed if the Attorney General took weeks to consider the evidence before deciding? How serious could any threat or emergency be? And yet we are denied the information, at least in part. If the probable cause was solid, why hide it from the public? Why wait 18 months to start an investigation if the national security was so at issue? A fishing expedition, perhaps, where facts are not as important as the dirt they hope that will stick to Mr. Trump inevitably. All this brouhaha over the FBI and the DOJ plundering the private home of a former president apparently caused some people to question the FBI and the DOJ, but the Attorney General was quick to come to their aid. Quote, let me address recent unfounded attacks on the professionalism of the FBI and the Justice Department agents and prosecutors. I will not stand by silently while their integrity is unfairly attacked. The men and women of the FBI and the Justice Department are dedicated, patriotic public servants every day. They protect the American people from violent crime, terrorism, and other threats to their safety while safeguarding our civil rights. They do so at great personal sacrifice and risk to themselves. I am honored to work alongside them, end quote. Well, yes, Mr. Garland, you should be honored to work alongside most of them because most of them are just what you say. It is they who should not be honored to work alongside you, a political hack and a lackey for a corrupt administration. You do quite well with the very corrupt dictator of the FBI, Mr. Christopher Wray, who ordered FBI agents to conduct the pack of lies against a sitting president known as Russiagate, who ordered the FBI to infiltrate a group of ignorant people in Michigan and formulate a plot to kidnap the governor, set it in motion, then arrest those people, who ordered FBI agents on January 6 to infiltrate demonstrators, lead them through the Capitol, and with the assistance of the Capitol Police, open the doors and invite them in, who ordered the protection of Hillary Clinton when she bleached 30,000 classified emails, and finally, Mr. Garland, who protected and continues to protect Hunter Biden and other Biden family members from their many crimes. I admire the agents who are out there on the front lines with bank robbers and with terrorists every day. But I don't think much of you, Mr. Garland. In fact, I don't admire you, our FBI Director, Mr. Christopher Wray, who recently got up and walked out of a congressional hearing because he said he had a plane to catch. It turns out that the FBI Gulfstream, paid for by the taxpayers, he was taking to his private vacation home. Clearly illegal, but he's above all that, you know. You should both be fired and have your home raided to see if any evidence of any crime could be found anywhere inside it. Finally, folks, there's no use in belaboring this story any longer, so I will close for now. My conclusion is that it is impossible to know the truth anymore because the government, top to bottom, is a bunch of corrupt liars who can say what they took, what they found, and what they planted in former President Trump's home. No matter what they tell us they discovered, it is a lie and not to be believed because they had ample time to plant anything. It is likely that Donald Trump will be indicted by a corrupt regime looking for a show trial a la the Soviet Union. At least that's the way I see it. Till next time, folks, this is Darrell Castle. Thanks for listening.